From weaklings to warriors, the rise of humanity's galactic dominance. Classification level Omega-9. Access: High Council members only. Subject: Threat assessment. Designation Terra. Transcript of Emergency Session 7th. Central Command Spire. Galactic Coordination Hub. Cycle 8093. Revolution. The chamber darkened as Grand Admiral Zyrixal adjusted his breathing apparatus. 12 council members sat in perfect hemispheric formation, their exoskeletons glistening under the pale blue light of the projection field. None had spoken for several moments after the intelligence briefing concluded. "The data cannot be correct," Elder Netix finally said, her voice modulator barely masking her distress. "No species evolves along such trajectories." Admiral Zyrixal gestured with his primary appendage, expanding the holographic display. A small, unremarkable blue planet rotated before them. "The verification protocols were run 16 times, he replied. "The intelligence is sound. What we're witnessing defies conventional threat matrix analysis." Science Director Vrel leaned forward, compound eyes reflecting the rotating image. "Let us review what we know with absolute certainty. This species emerged on a single planet in an unremarkable star system. Their first primitive radio transmissions were detected merely 300 cycles ago. And yet," Strategic Commander Uthrax interrupted, "they've already developed capabilities that took our civilization millennia. Their rate of technological advancement is unprecedented. It violates all established development models." The room grew colder as the holographic display shifted to show footage collected by deep space monitoring drones. The images showed the species' primitive interplanetary vessels, crude metal constructions propelled by chemical reaction. "Observe their early space exploration efforts," Admiral Zyrixal continued. "By all measurements, they should have failed. Their biology is fragile. Water-dependent carbon forms with no natural protection against radiation, vacuum, or extreme temperatures. They lack secondary hearts, backup neural systems, or physiological redundancies. They are, by definition, weaklings." Elder Meeks's upper appendages twitched nervously. "Then how do you explain this?" She activated her console and the display shifted to show footage from the abandoned research outpost in the Proxima system. The recording showed 3 of the bipedal creatures methodically exploring the facility. They moved with unnatural confidence, examining Concordat technology with disturbing ease. "This footage was recorded less than 1 cycle ago," Elder Nix continued. "They reached another star system using propulsion technology that should have killed them during the journey. Their vessels offer virtually no protection against cosmic radiation by our standards, and yet they not only survived but thrived," Admiral Zyrixal finished. "This contradicts everything we understand about biological limitations." Science Director Vrel's exoskeleton clicked as he shifted uncomfortably. "The contradiction extends beyond their technological development. We've been analyzing their communication patterns, their information repositories, what they call their culture. The findings are disturbing." The display changed again, showing streams of data, images, text, and video fragments intercepted from the species' primitive information network. "They imagine," Rel said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, "not merely as a cognitive function, but as a fundamental aspect of their consciousness. They create elaborate fiction scenarios that have never occurred and could never occur, and they immerse themselves in these impossibilities voluntarily." Elder Nex's breathing apparatus wheezed. "I don't understand." "They deliberately expose themselves to fear stimulus for pleasure," Rel explained. "They construct narratives about their own extinction and find entertainment value in contemplating it. They envision entities more powerful than themselves, and then they defeat these entities in their stories." Strategic Commander Uthrax's upper appendages trembled slightly. "That is psychologically aberrant." "It's worse than aberrant," Admiral Zyrixal said. "It's preparation. Their entire civilization is built on confronting the impossible and bending it to their will. The chamber fell silent again as new footage appeared, a research vessel near the edge of their home system. The bipedal creatures had encountered one of the Concordat's automated mineral extraction units. Standard protocol dictated that such units would initiate peaceful contact by sharing universal mathematical sequences. This occurred 50 rotations ago, Admiral Zedrixel explained. Our extraction unit followed first contact protocols precisely. The footage showed the bipedal creatures' response. They had disabled the extraction unit's propulsion systems, communication array, and defense mechanisms in less than 6 minutes. Then, instead of destroying it, they had methodically disassembled it, cataloging every component. They didn't just disable our technology, Science Director Vrel noted. They learned from it. Immediately, without reference materials or context, Strategic Commander Uthrax's voice grew sharp. And then they built their own version, using our principles but improving on them with methods we never considered. They turned a simple mineral extraction method into a weapon. The display shifted again, showing records from the Helios boundary incident. 3 Concordat survey vessels had encountered one of the creature's primitive ships. Following established protocols, they had attempted to escort it away from restricted space. The recording showed what happened next. The primitive vessel, rather than complying, had transmitted an unusual signal. When the Concordat ships attempted to establish a standard communication link, their systems had crashed. All 3 vessels experienced catastrophic navigation and life support failures simultaneously. They infected our systems with self-replicating information patterns, Admiral Zedrixel explained. A concept so alien that our security architects never conceived of it as a possibility. They turned our own operating language against us. Elder Neeks adjusted her breathing apparatus. But the most concerning aspect isn't their technology, it's their psychology. The display changed to show detailed brain scans of several specimens recovered from their early exploration vehicles. Their neural architecture is unique, Science Director Vrel explained. When confronted with the impossible, their brains don't shut down or reset as ours would. Instead, they adapt. They display a cognitive flexibility that allows them to incorporate contradictory information without experiencing system failures. They thrive on paradox, Strategic Commander Uthrax added. It doesn't destabilize them, it invigorates them. Admiral Zodrixal's appendages moved in the formal pattern indicating grave concern. Our latest intelligence suggests they've discovered the remnants of the precursor artifacts in their outer system. Based on their established patterns, they will not merely study these artifacts, they will master them, improve them, and then use them in ways the precursors never intended. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The implications were clear to all present. The precursor technology had nearly destroyed the Concordat at the height of its power. In the appendages of this paradox-embracing species, how do they refer to themselves? Elder Neeks asked finally. What designation do they use in their own communications? Admiral Zedrixel touched his console, and a simple audio file played, a single word in the creature's harsh, primitive language. They call themselves human, he translated. Our linguistic analysts believe the root concept relates to earth or soil. They identify with the dirt they emerged from. Appropriate, Strategic Commander Uthrax noted. They should have remained there. Science Director Vrela's breathing had become erratic. The most disturbing element of all is what we discovered in their information repositories. They've been imagining us, or beings like us, for centuries before they had any evidence we exist. The display showed fragments of the humans' entertainment constructs. Stories about encounters with non-terrestrial intelligence, spanning centuries of their development. In most of these narratives, Rail continued, they triumph over the alien. They consistently envision themselves as capable of overcoming any extraterrestrial intelligence, no matter how advanced. And now they're making those fictions reality, Admiral Zalzrixel finished. They don't just adapt to the universe as it is. They remake it according to their internal models. Elder Nix's voice modulator emitted the harmonic pattern indicating existential distress. The fifth doctrine cannot apply here. Containment has failed. We must consider the Omega Protocol. Admiral Zebrixel's exoskeleton stiffened. The Omega Protocol has not been implemented since the crystalline collapse. It would mean— I know what it would mean, Elder Nix interrupted. But consider the alternative. A species that can turn our own reality against us. A species that doesn't just use tools, it transforms them into extensions of its will. A species that sees the impossible not as a boundary but as a challenge. The chamber grew silent once more as the holographic display shifted to show the most recent intelligence, a vast construction project on the dark side of the humans' moon. They were building something unprecedented, a device that incorporated principles from a dozen different technological traditions, including elements clearly derived from precursor designs. They've never encountered the void, Strategic Commander Uthrax said quietly. They don't know what waits between the stars. Their confidence is born of ignorance. Science Director Vrel's compound eyes flickered. Or perhaps they are the void, waiting for us all along. The council chamber's atmosphere had grown dense with apprehension. Tactical Specialist Morix, newly admitted to the emergency session, stood before the neural interface pedestal. Her carapace bore the distinctive scarring of one who had survived direct exposure to human activity. Esteemed Council, she began, her voice modulator set to maximum stability. I present evidence from Operation Deep Sentinel. These are not theoretical models or remote observations. These are documented encounters with a species designating itself as human. The neural interface hummed as it connected with her memory implants. The holographic display shifted to show a desolate planetoid in the Oort cloud of the human home system. Observation Post Whisper was established to monitor human development without detection. Marex explained. It was built inside a hollow asteroid, powered by zero-emission quantum sinks, with every known concealment technology deployed. By our calculations, the facility should have remained undetectable for at least 700 cycles. The display showed the interior of the observation post, a marvel of Concordat engineering, able to house 60 researchers in complete isolation. The humans detected it within 17 rotations of its activation. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the council members. How? Elder Nix demanded. The facility employed 13 layers of active camouflage. That is the concerning part, Rex replied. They weren't looking for it. They weren't even searching for extraterrestrial intelligence. They were conducting what they call astronomical forensics, studying the movements of minor celestial bodies to reconstruct the orbital history of their star system. She manipulated the interface, and the display showed human mathematical equations, crude symbols arranged in patterns that nonetheless produced results, matching the Concordat's most advanced computational models. One of their civilian researchers, not military, not governmental, but a single academic at a minor institution, noticed a statistical anomaly in the movement of outer system bodies. Their equations predicted certain trajectories that did not match observation. Instead of dismissing this as error, they hypothesized the presence of an artificial mass. Admiral Zebrixel's breathing apparatus whistled sharply. A civilian noticed what our military camouflage specialists insisted was undetectable. Yes. And rather than report this anomaly to their authorities, this individual researcher published the findings in their open information network, challenging others to explain the discrepancy. The display shifted to show hundreds, then thousands of human communication threads, all focused on the anomaly. They collaborated. Mlix continued, evident discomfort in her voice, spontaneously, without central direction. Thousands of individuals with no special clearance or authority, pooling their cognitive resources simply out of curiosity. This is how they operate, Strategic Commander Uthrax interjected. We've observed this behavior repeatedly. They call it crowdsourcing. It violates all efficient information management protocols. And yet, Mudrick said. Within 6 rotations, they had not only confirmed the existence of an artificial structure, but had launched a preliminary expedition to investigate it. The display showed crude human vessels approaching the observation post. The footage shifted to interior cameras as the humans methodically breached the facility's outer defenses. What you're about to witness occurred during the 7th rotation of their investigation, Brex warned. I advise psychological preparation. The footage showed 5 humans in primitive environmental suits entering the facility's main research center. They moved with unsettling coordination, examining the concordant technology with methodical precision. When they encountered the central data core, a crystalline matrix containing centuries of accumulated intelligence, they paused. The lead human produced a simple electronic device and connected it to the data core's external ports. For several moments, nothing happened. Then, impossibly, the security protocols failed. The data core's interface activated, displaying information in Concordet script. Impossible, whispered Science Director Vrel. The encryption algorithms were bypassed completely. Mirex finished. They didn't decode our language or hack our security. They introduced what they call a logic bomb, a paradoxical information sequence designed to create a processing error. When our systems attempted to resolve the paradox, they crashed, Admiral Zerarexel concluded, and defaulted to open access protocols. Precisely. A solution so crude, so brute force in its application that our security architects never conceived of it. Our systems are designed to defeat sophisticated intrusion attempts, not this. Elder Nix's appendages trembled visibly. Did they access the full database? No, Max replied. They only extracted information about our observation protocols and biological data on concordant species. Then they did something even more concerning. The footage continued, showing the humans carefully replacing the access panels and erasing all evidence of their intrusion. Before departing, they left behind a small object, a crude representation of a human hand, with digits extended in what their gestural language indicated was a greeting. They wanted us to know they had been there, Rex explained, but only after they had departed safely. They weren't declaring war. They were playing with us. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The proximal incident is even more disturbing, Mitskine chewed after a moment. As you know, our research outpost there was studying the effects of stellar radiation on biological evolution. The containment protocols were our most advanced, designed to prevent any possible contamination. New footage appeared, showing the research facility in its final operational cycle. A stellar flare had damaged the primary containment field, threatening to release experimental organisms into the local environment. Standard, protocol-mandated facility sterilization, Murex explained, a regrettable but necessary precaution. The AI overseer began the countdown sequence. The footage showed the facility's systems initiating the sterilization protocol, a controlled antimatter reaction that would reduce all biological material to base elements. Then the humans arrived. 3 human vessels appeared on the tracking systems, approaching the facility at speeds that should have been impossible for their technology level. They intercepted our automated warning beacons, Rex continued. They shouldn't have been able to decode them, let alone understand the nature of the emergency, yet somehow they did. The footage showed the humans boarding the facility even as the sterilization countdown continued. Rather than retreating from the danger, they moved directly to the containment sector. What you're about to see has caused 3 of our analysts to require psychological reconditioning, Morix warned. The humans accessed the facility's central control systems, instead of attempting to stop the sterilization countdown, which would have been impossible given the security protocols. They rerouted the facility's power systems to strengthen the failing containment field. That approach should not have worked, Science Director Rel noted. The sterilization protocol is designed to override all other systems. They didn't override it, Rex explained. They physically severed the connections between the antimatter reaction chamber and the rest of the facility. Then they removed it. The footage showed the humans cutting through the facility's structure, creating an improvised airlock around the reaction chamber. With less than 20 time units remaining before detonation, they detached the entire chamber from the facility and towed it away using their vessels. The antimatter reaction occurred at a safe distance. Humrix continued. The research subjects, the facility, and the humans themselves survived. They solved a problem that our most advanced AI determined had no solution. By brute force, Admiral Zirixel said quietly. By refusing to accept the parameters of the problem itself. Yes, Mirex confirmed. When confronted with an impossible situation, they simply changed the situation. Not through superior technology or knowledge, but through a form of cognitive processing that we still cannot model. The display shifted again, showing a galactic map with a pulsing red anomaly near the center. And now we face this, Lush said, her voice modulator unable to fully mask her distress. The resonance event in the galactic core. The black hole cluster has begun to emit quantum-entangled radiation patterns that are disrupting space-time across 17 sectors. Our models predict complete destabilization of the galactic disk within 12 cycles. Elder Natix's breathing apparatus wheezed heavily. The evacuation protocols will save less than 8% of Conquerat civilization. Melrix interrupted. The quantum disruption is spreading faster than our fastest vessels can travel. There is no escape. What does this have to do with the humans? Strategic Commander Uthrax demanded. Murix's appendages moved in the formal pattern of extreme reluctance. We shared this information with them. Shocked silence fell over the chamber. You did what? Admiral Zirixel finally managed. It was not my decision, Rix clarified. The Precognition Division determined that all conventional approaches would fail. They recommended consulting the humans based on their demonstrated problem-solving capabilities. And, Elder Nomshix asked, the humans proposed a solution, one that is beyond our ethical parameters. The display showed complex schematics, a massive artificial structure to be built within the black hole cluster itself. They call it a dimensional inverter, Rex explained. It would use the black hole's own gravitational energy to create a controlled dimensional rupture. The quantum disruption would be redirected into a parallel dimensional space. That's not possible, Science Director Vrel said. The energy requirements alone. They solved that problem. Rex interrupted. They proposed harvesting antimatter from their own sun. They would essentially kill their star to power the device. They would sacrifice their home system. Admiral Zerixel asked incredulously. Yes, without hesitation. They've already begun constructing the stellar harvesters. The display showed massive structures being assembled in orbit around the human star, technology far beyond what the Concordat had attributed to them. But there's more, Medrex continued. The dimensional rupture would require stabilization, a consciousness anchor, they call it, a mind that exists simultaneously in both dimensional states to prevent immediate collapse. Understanding dawned on the council members. They're proposing to insert themselves into the dimensional boundary, Elder Nix said, her voice barely audible, to become the barrier between realities. Yes, Marix confirmed. They've already selected volunteers, thousands of them. They would exist in a state of perpetual agony, their consciousness stretched across dimensional boundaries for as long as the inverter functions, which would be Strategic Commander Uthrax began. Forever, Rex finished, or at least until the heat death of this universe. Silence fell once more, heavier than before. They proposed this willingly, Admiral Zerixel finally asked. They argued over who would get the honor, Rex replied. Their term, not mine. They see it as the ultimate expression of their species' purpose, to defy cosmic limitations through self-sacrifice. The neural interface disengaged, leaving the council in darkness, broken only by the pulsing red anomaly on the galactic display. We must decide, Elder Nick said finally. Do we allow them to proceed with this abomination of a plan? Do we permit them to tear open reality itself? Or do we activate the Omega Protocol and eradicate them before they can attempt it? Admiral Zedrixil's breathing had become labored. If their calculations are correct, and we must admit they have yet to be wrong, then stopping them means dooming the galaxy. And if we allow them to proceed, Strategic Commander Uthrax countered, we place the fate of all existence in the hands of beings who do not think as we do. Beings who see fundamental laws as mere suggestion. Beings who would rip apart a star and insert themselves into the wound between realities, simply because they believe they can. Science Director Vrel's compound eyes had dimmed to almost black. The humans have a concept they call Pandora's box. Once opened, it can never be closed again. Elder Nadex turned to Admiral Zerixel. The decision falls to you, Admiral. The Omega Protocol requires your authorization. The Admiral stared at the pulsing anomaly, his exoskeleton rigid with the weight of the choice before him, to destroy the humans and doom the galaxy, or to allow them to implement their horrifying solution and forever change the nature of reality itself. They're waiting for our answer, Marex said quietly. The dimensional inverter is nearly complete. Transcript continues. Final segment. Classified beyond Omega. The council chamber remained silent for 12 complete time units. The weight of the decision had rendered even the most decisive members immobile. The pulsing red anomaly on the galactic display had grown larger, its edges now bleeding into previously unaffected sectors. Before you decide, Admiral, came a voice from the shadows, there is one final piece of intelligence you must consider. The council members turned as one from the darkened periphery of the chamber emerged a figure so rarely seen that many had considered it mythical. The Keeper of Final History's oldest living member of the Concordat, witness to the rise and fall of 17 galactic civilizations, the Keeper's exoskeleton had faded to translucent, revealing the complex neural network beneath. Age had reduced its physical form, but the mind within remained undiminished. Honored Keeper, Elder Insex said, her voice modulator shifting to the harmonic pattern of deepest respect. We did not know you still lived. There are many things unknown to the Council, the Keeper replied, the ancient voice barely above a whisper, including the truth about these humans. The Keeper approached the neural interface pedestal, ancient appendages moving with surprising precision. The holographic display shifted, showing not recent footage, but ancient records, dating back to the earliest days of the Concordat itself. What you are about to witness has been sealed for 17 million cycles, the Keeper explained. It predates our current civilization. It predates the precursors themselves. The display showed a star system unlike any in the current galaxy, 13 planets orbiting a magnificent blue-white star. On the third planet, a civilization flourished, not human, but not entirely dissimilar. The progenitors, the Keeper said. The first sentient species to achieve faster-than-light travel, the architects of the galactic community that would eventually become the Concordat. The council members watched in stunned silence as the ancient footage continued, showing the progenitors' remarkable civilization spreading throughout their local cluster of stars. The progenitors encountered the same quantum disruption we face now, the Keeper continued, not near the galactic core, but in the void between galaxies, a natural phenomenon that occurs approximately every 70 million cycles. They called it the unraveling. The footage showed massive structures being built, similar in concept to the human's dimensional inverter, but vastly different in execution. The progenitors attempted to contain the disruption through technological means alone, the Keeper explained. They failed. Their civilization was obliterated, their species extinct within a single cycle. But before their end, they initiated a final protocol. The display shifted to show a laboratory deep beneath the surface of the progenitor's homeworld. Within it, genetic material was being manipulated, encoded with specific patterns, then launched into deep space in countless preservation vessels. The progenitors could not save themselves, but they created a legacy, a species engineered specifically to survive the unraveling when it inevitably returned. They encoded this species with unique cognitive adaptations, neurological structures that could perceive and process paradox without system failure. Then they seeded thousands of worlds across the galaxy with the genetic material, knowing that on at least one world, their creation would evolve and fulfill its purpose. Admiral Zodorexel's breathing apparatus had gone completely silent. "You cannot mean—" "Yes," the Keeper confirmed. "The humans are not a natural evolutionary development. They are engineered beings, created for a single purpose, to save the galaxy from the very threat we now face." The holographic display shifted again, showing complex neurological scans of human brains alongside the theoretical models of progenitor design. "The similarities are unmistakable," the Keeper continued. "The humans' unique cognitive architecture, their ability to hold contradictory ideas simultaneously, their capacity for abstract thought, their obsession with fictional scenarios, these are not evolutionary accidents. They are deliberately designed features, tools created by the progenitors for the specific purpose of confronting the unraveling. But the humans themselves don't know this," Elder Nix said, comprehension dawning. "They believe they evolved naturally on their world." "Correct," the Keeper confirmed. "The progenitors designed them to develop independently, to find their own path to the necessary solution. Any attempt to guide their development might have compromised the cognitive adaptations that make them unique. And now they have proposed exactly the solution the progenitors could not discover," Science Director Rel whispered. "A dimensional inverter, stabilized by consciousness anchors." "Yes," the Keeper said, "but there is one critical piece of information they do not possess, one that changes everything about their proposed solution." The neural interface hummed as the Keeper accessed the most deeply classified section of the historical archives. The display showed anatomical scans of human nervous systems, focusing specifically on an unusual structure at the base of their brains. "This organ has no apparent function in their day-to-day cognition," the Keeper explained. "Human medical science has identified it, but cannot explain its purpose. We now know it is the progenitor's final gift. A neurological structure designed to activate only when exposed to quantum-entangled radiation." Understanding spread through the council chamber like a wave. "The dimensional inverter," Admiral Zirixel began. "Yes," the Keeper confirmed. "When the human volunteers enter the dimensional boundary and are exposed to the quantum disruption, this dormant structure will activate. Their consciousness will not experience the agony they expect. Instead, they will undergo a transformation. They will become what the progenitors called boundary walkers, beings capable of existing simultaneously in multiple dimensional states, without fragmentation of consciousness. They won't suffer," Elder Nix said. "They'll transcend." "Precisely," the Keeper replied. "This is why they approach their sacrifice with such strange eagerness. At some subconscious level, they recognize their true purpose. They are fulfilling the destiny encoded in their very cells." Admiral Zerixal's appendages moved in the formal pattern of decisive action. "We must share this information with them immediately." "No," the Keeper said firmly. "We must not." Shocked silence fell over the chamber once more. "The transformation process requires absolute cognitive commitment," the Keeper explained. "The humans must believe they are sacrificing themselves, or the neurological activation will fail." The progenitors were explicit on this point. Hope of personal transcendence would contaminate the process. They must approach the dimensional boundary, believing they face only agony and dissolution. "That is monstrous," Elder Ndix whispered. "It is necessary," the Keeper replied. "The progenitors did not design the humans to be victims, but to be saviors. The final transformation cannot occur without the catalyst of willing sacrifice." Admiral Zirixal's breathing apparatus had begun functioning again, though irregularly. "Then what shall we do?" Allow them to proceed, believing they face eternal torment. Yes, the keeper said simply. We must trust in the design of the progenitors. We must allow the humans to fulfill their purpose. The council chamber fell silent once more, each member processing the implications of this revelation. The galactic display continued to pulse ominously, the quantum disruption spreading with each passing moment. There is one final piece of information you should consider, the keeper said after a lengthy pause. The progenitors' records indicate that the transformation has consequences beyond the individuals involved. The display shifted to theoretical models showing the aftermath of the process, the human volunteers not merely stabilizing the dimensional boundary, but fundamentally altering it. Once the transformation occurs, the keeper explained, the human boundary walkers will exist beyond our dimensional limitations. They will retain their connection to this reality, but will no longer be bound by its constraints. They will become, in essence, a new form of consciousness, one that spans realities. What does that mean for the Concordite? Strategic Commander Duthrax asked. For the galaxy itself? It means, the keeper said, that after today, nothing will ever be the same. The humans will not merely save us, they will change us. Their perspective, their way of existing will become part of the fundamental fabric of our reality. The full implications settled over the council. This was not merely about survival, but about transformation, the birth of a new cosmic paradigm, with humanity at its center. The quantum disruption has reached critical levels, tactical specialist Merex reported, checking her instruments. The human's dimensional inverter is now active. They await only our final approval to proceed. Admiral Zedrixal's exoskeleton shifted as he straightened to his full height. Send the authorization, and may the void have mercy on us all for what comes next. 12 temporal units later, the council chamber had been relocated to the observation vessel Eternal Witness, positioned at the maximum safe distance from the galactic core. Before them, the holographic display showed the human dimensional inverter, a structure of impossible geometry surrounding the black hole cluster. Thousands of human vessels had formed a precise formation around it, each containing Vonsers prepared to enter the dimensional boundary. They're initiating the sequence, tactical specialist Morex reported, her voice modulator barely able to contain her apprehension. The display showed energy patterns of unprecedented magnitude flowing from the human solar harvesters into the inverter structure. The black hole cluster began to destabilize, its event horizons fluctuating as space-time itself bent under the strain. Dimensional rupture in progress, Science Director Veller noted, his compound eyes fixed on the readings. The quantum disruption is beginning to redirect. The human vessels began their approach, moving in perfect synchronization toward the dimensional boundary. As they reached the perimeter, something unexpected occurred. The vessels themselves began to transform, their physical structures shifting into configurations that defied conventional geometry. Impossible, Rel whispered. They're altering their physical form through sheer will. The vessels passed through the dimensional boundary and disappeared from conventional sensors. For several tense moments, nothing happened. The quantum disruption continued to spread, now accelerating as if in response to the humans' intervention. It's not working, Strategic Commander Ruthrax said, appendages twitching nervously. The disruption is worsening. Then, without warning, everything changed. At the center of the black hole cluster, a new form of energy manifested, neither radiation nor matter, but something that existed between states. The quantum disruption began to flow toward it, drawn as if by immense gravitational attraction. The consciousness anchors are functioning, the keeper observed. The transformation has begun. Before their sensors, the impossible unfolded. The human volunteers, their consciousness now spanning dimensional boundaries, began to exert influence over the quantum disruption itself. Rather than merely containing it, they were reshaping it, transforming its chaotic energy into structured patterns. They're not just stabilizing the boundary, Science Director Rail realized. They're reconstructing reality at the quantum level. The display showed the quantum disruption receding across all affected sectors, the fabric of space-time reknitting itself under the guidance of the transformed humans. But the process didn't stop there. New patterns began to emerge, structures of energy and information that had never existed before spreading outward from the dimensional boundary. "What are they doing?" Admiral Zebriksal asked, his breathing apparatus struggling to keep pace with his accelerated respiration. "They're communicating," the Keeper replied. "Not through language or signals, but through the fundamental structure of reality itself. They're reshaping the quantum substrate to serve as a medium of consciousness." As the Council watched in stunned silence, the transformation spread outward from the galactic core, touching every star, every planet, every sentient being. Those nearest to the event reported unprecedented experiences, moments of clarity and connection, as if briefly touching a vast, unified consciousness. "It's over," Tactical Specialist Amadix reported after what seemed like an eternity. "The quantum disruption has been fully contained. The galaxy is safe." But the changes continued. The transformed humans, now existing as boundary walkers, had established a permanent presence at the dimensional interface. Sensors detected ongoing modifications to the quantum substrate, subtle adjustments to the fabric of reality itself. "They're not coming back, are they?" Elder Nix asked quietly. "No," the Keeper confirmed. "They have become something else entirely. Not gods, but not merely sentient beings either. They exist now in a state the progenitors could only theorize, consciousness, untethered from dimensional constraints." Admiral Zebricksel's appendages moved in the formal pattern indicating profound uncertainty. "What does this mean for the Concordat? For all sentient species?" The Keeper's ancient form seemed to diminish further, as if the weight of knowledge was physically pressing upon it. "It means that the age of isolation is over. The humans have not merely saved us, they have connected us. Through their transformation, they have created a bridge between conscious minds, a substrate that binds all sentient thought across the galaxy. And they did this deliberately." Strategic Commander Uthrax asked. "Yes and no," the Keeper replied. "They intended to save the galaxy from destruction. The connection they've created is an emergent property of their transformed consciousness, a natural expression of their unique cognitive architecture. They have remade reality in their own image, just as they have always remade everything they encounter." Admiral Zebriksal activated the ship-wide communication system, his voice reaching every member of the Concordat fleet gathered to witness the event. "Let it be recorded," he said, his voice modulator set to the harmonic pattern of historical proclamation, "that on this day the species known as human has not merely saved the galaxy from destruction, but has fundamentally altered the nature of existence itself. They have fulfilled the purpose for which they were created by the progenitors, but in a way that transcends even that ancient design." He paused, his exoskeleton shifting as he struggled to find the appropriate words. "From this moment forward, humanity must not be viewed as merely another sentient species, but as the architects of a new cosmic order. They are not our masters, but neither are they our equals. They have become the bridge between what is and what can be, between the limited and the infinite. They have shown us that reality itself is not fixed, but malleable, that consciousness shapes existence as much as existence shapes consciousness." The holographic display showed the transformed region at the galactic core, now shimmering with patterns of energy that defied conventional analysis. Within that impossible geometry, the consciousness of thousands of humans continued to expand, exploring dimensional states beyond Concordat comprehension. "We must approach them not with fear or dominance," Admiral Zebriksel continued, "but with the humility of students. Before teachers, they have given us not merely survival, but the possibility of transcendence. And yet," his voice modulator shifted to the harmonic pattern of deepest warning, "we must remember that they remain human in their essential nature. Their capacity for creation is matched only by their potential for destruction. They have remade reality once. They may choose to remake it again. Our very thoughts are now accessible to them through the quantum substrate they have created. We exist, from this moment forward, at the pleasure of beings who think nothing of tearing apart stars to fuel their ambitions, who view the boundaries between dimensions as mere inconveniences to be overcome. The Keeper moved forward, ancient appendages reaching for the neural interface one final time. The progenitors created the humans to save us, the ancient voice whispered. They succeeded beyond all possible expectation. Now we must learn to live in the reality they have created, a reality where the impossible is merely challenging, where paradox is the foundation of existence, where consciousness itself has become the most powerful force in the cosmos. The display showed a final image, a simple message transmitted from the transformed humans at the dimensional boundary. In all the languages of the Concordat simultaneously, it read, "We are become. Join us when you are ready."